Welcome to the High School Huddle. My name is Brandon Chapman. I'm joined by Ryan Aber. He's the lead prep writer for the Oklahoman. And we awarded our basketball awards last week with Xavier Henry earning the nod for Player of the Year. What makes the Putnam City standout so special?
Well, what doesn't? He has the bloodlines. Both of his parents played at Kansas. His brother, CJ, was a great high school player before deciding to play professional baseball. But we're talking about a 6'6", two-guard who has some of the best touch in the nation already right now, and used to playing facing the basket, going to be a really dangerous player in college, and it looks like he's finally made that decision, and we'll know for sure tomorrow, but it looks like Kansas is going to be his destination.
All right. Well, Star Spencer's Josh Davis got the nod as the Little All-City Player of the Year. What makes Josh so special, and also tell me who else was kind of in the mix?
Well, I think Josh, what makes him special is that he figured out this year that people were going to be double and even triple teaming him at times, and he figured out how to get the ball to his teammates when it was needed. Found Kendra Talley out there, especially during the state tournament. Kendra and Deontay Thomas really did a good job of hitting shots outside, and that lessened the pressure on Josh a lot and let him do other things. And he's also a big guy who's going to play down low but can come out and hit shots on the outside and really present matchup problems for whoever he was playing against in high school.
Well, there were a lot of great performances in the playoffs. Was there anybody who kind of played their way into an award or onto a team?
Yeah, I think the big one for me was Matt Qualls from Tahlequah, just because there was some question about him because he had played at a 6A level before this year, but his team hadn't had a whole lot of success. And really, on these teams, your team has to make a deep run at least in order to be seriously considered, unless you're a player like Xavier or Daniel Orton, who didn't play this year, and that's why he wasn't on the team. But Matt really stepped up in the playoffs. They had dropped down to 5A, led them to a state tournament, and had some really good games there, and it was hard to ignore what he did.
Well, was there anybody who you really just had a hard time leaving off the team?
I think one of them for the Super 5 would have been Harrison DuPont from Carl Albert. Just a do-everything kind of guy, a great leader on the floor as well as a player. Another one is Tyrus McGee from Stringtown, who put up just huge numbers. Dalen Qualls from Stratford, same thing, averaged well over 30 points a game. Both those guys just put up massive scoring numbers and did it against pretty good competition for the most part. So those guys were tough to leave off, but they had their place in other teams, and for Dalen, he'll have his place in the next couple of years, it looks like.
All right. Well, those were solid selections. Obviously, a lot of work went into that. But let's go ahead and move on. Last week, the OSSA had a meeting, and obviously some things came up as far as the public school versus private school debate. I know you wrote about that a little bit in Monday's paper, but if you were in charge, what would you do?
Well, I think if I were in charge, what I'd do is get a group of private schools and public school administrators together and hammer it out in a situation that's a little bit more equitable than what happened last week. Just because when you've got 400-something public schools and 18 privates, we know who's going to win that debate. The problem is you've got to figure out something that's going to hold up legally, as well as something that's going to fix some of the issues. And some of those are real and some of them are perceived, but that affect public and private schools. I think the ultimate thing that should happen is there's going to be something that's going to bump up those private schools, whether it's an automatic one-class bump like Arkansas has, or a multiplier that's some states do anywhere from a 1.3 multiplier on their enrollment to as many as I believe there's some that do even a 2 or even a little bit above that. But I think the multiplier or some form of that is going to be what's going to come eventually. It's just how much heartache are we going to have to go through getting to that point.
All right, Ryan. Well, we appreciate your expertise. You've been on top of this stuff all the time it's been going on, and we appreciate it. We'll continue to log on to newsok.com and read the Oklahoman, as, like I said, Ryan will stay on top of the public versus private school debate. And we'll continue to cover the spring sports all around the state.